Greetings, greetings, family. We are live. Sister Shanice in the house alongside our brother Kwame. Rise up, brother Kwame. How you doing?
Rise up, Sister Shanice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We've got another very interesting debate and conversation today. In fact, we're going to be continuing the topic for conversation that we started last strong. We are continuing it in response to the demand and the requests from our audience. So certainly hope that all of our audience that tuned into us last strong will be tuning back in to us tonight so that we can continue this really important discussion. And yes, we are expecting to be joined by Leader Bandaka and also Brother Rasool, who'll be joining us from South Africa, Leader Bandaka from the UKKK. And of course, we have our brother Kwame Konza joining us from Ghana. I'm also on the continent, and so family, we just apologize in advance if our internet connection is a little poor or unstable. Please bear with us. And, you know, if I drop out, the panel will just keep it rolling as if nothing's happened. And so family, you know how we do it. We're just going to keep it moving because there ain't no stopping us. This is a new day. This is a new dispensation. And there's so much that we need to do, a huge amount that we need to do as a people. We're going to keep the train moving. We're going to keep, you know, our efforts and our energies and the work that we've got to do moving because we've got a new generation to inspire. You know, we've got new nations that we need to rise up, you know, so we've got to pick up from where our ancestors left off, and we have just got to keep doing the works that need to be done in order for us as a people to be in a position where we can make the progress that we want to be making. So we're just waiting for the family members to join us and for, you know, more of you to log on. And as you log on, please let us know where you're watching us from in the world. Also, you know, any messages that you want to drop us, please do so. Just drop them in the chat. And, you know, give us a thumbs up on the way in as well, please. Would much appreciate love. So, Kwame, my brother, I know how busy you are. It's an honor and a privilege as always to have you join us on the Sister Shanice show. I know you've warned me as well that your connection might be a little unstable, but, you know, let's hope that, you know, it makes it through the evening. Brother Kwame, how has, he's just dropped out there, but you know how we do it. He will be back with us as soon as he can. So, you know, family, this is a time where, yeah, we as a people, we are making progress, we're making changes, you know, we're raising awareness, we're changing the narrative, we're having our say on what's going on in the world during these times, because, you know, this is our time, this is now, this is the time where we are the ones who have to be the difference that we want to see. So if you're looking at something where you are that you don't like, it means that you are the one that needs to take action to be the difference that you want to see, okay? We know the extent to which we as a people are being exploited around the world. Our motherland is being exploited. It continues to be exploited. You know, this exploitation has been going on for thousands of years. We know the degradation, we know the insults, we know the impoverishment that we're suffering as a people, you know, as a result of current policies and the status quo. And we know that as a people, we tend to be excluded and our lands looked down on, we as a people look down on, but we are here to rise up ourselves, to rise up our nation, to rise up our people. We, the original people of the world, you know, are going to be taking back control and responsibility for what the works that we need to be doing here on this earth during these times. And let me tell you this, family, it's a miracle, you know, that we are even here. If you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing the reflection of a melanated person looking back at you, don't take it for granted. Do not take it for granted. Please don't. We are a living miracle. We really, really are, because You know, if it wasn't for our ancestors, if it wasn't for, you know, their efforts, their energies, and their stamina and their ability to be able to survive during these perilous times, during the perilous times that they had to go through, we would not be here today. So we are the survivors. We are the descendants of survivors. We are the fittest of the fittest, because only the fittest of the fittest actually survive. Okay, so let's go over to the chat. Let's see who we've got joining us so far this evening. As you can see, my guests are going to be joining me quite shortly. Certainly hope so anyway. Hey, hey, no, they will be. I'm sure they will be. Alrighty, let's see who we got. We've got Freddie Lucas in the house, and he's saying Tanzania politicians on both sides are busy trying to tarnish Magufuli's legacy. Listen, no matter how hard they try to tarnish Magufuli's legacy, they can't do it. They can't. You know why? Because the works that he did and what he stood for is as tall as and is as strong as a mountain in the minds and the hearts of the people. So, you know, he's done the works of 55, 56 African presidents rolled into one. And no matter how hard he tries, he is, you know, the Patrice Lumumba of our days. He is the Marcus Messiah Garvey of our time. He Magufulified the whole of Africa, you know, and it's too late. There's no stopping his legacy now. He has left, you know, a mighty, mighty example for everybody to follow. So they can all but try, but it's not going to happen. So we've got homegirl healer in the house. Rise up, rise up. She's saying, peace and love, family. Rise up, Africa. Absolutely agree with you on that. We've got Pensy Lola in the house saying peace, program and blessings. Rise up. We've got Scarlett honoring the ancestors. Hey, rise up, rise up. And we've got, this is Jojo watching us from London, and JJ saying, hi, gorgeous, watching from the UK. Thank you so much. So drop us a line. Let us know where you're watching us from. We've got 40 people in the house. Hopefully I've got 40 likes so far already. If not, if you have yet to give us a like, please do. To give us a like, it is just giving us the thumbs up. Yes, yes, yes. So family, wherever you're watching us from, please do pass the word. Let your family and your friends know that we are here for another Magufulification evening. We are rising up the memory and the legacy of our former president, Magufuli. So we are the Magufuliites. Yes, we are indeed. And you know, what we've got to make sure that we do is that we keep his name alive, that we continue to call for an investigation into his untimely death and the death of his 10 aides as well, that we continue to rise up his name, to big up his name, and to remember what he actually stood for, to remember his accomplishments and his achievements. President Magufuli, he actually changed the economic rules of the game. He changed the economic rules of the games, the colonial, neo-colonial rules of the games. He stepped out of their matrix and actually took his country out with him, liberating himself, liberating his country, you know, during his reign from the clutches, from the evil, wicked clutches of those who want to dictate, you know, what his country ought to be doing and ought not to be doing. To those who have been dictating to African countries for decades, to the detriment of the growth and development of those countries. And, you know, by stepping outside of the matrix, by actually taking control of his resources and his country, changing the rules and regulations where it needed changing, you know, he's actually managed to increase the GDP levels of Tanzania, move it up to a middle income economy. And I know that if he had the time, if he had another 5 years, you know, all of the people would have been risen up as well to enjoy a better quality of life. So important was the works that he was doing. So, you know, Tanzania, like many African countries, minerally rich, full of mineral wealth. But as we know from the history, plagued with exploitation, plagued with economic abuse. And this is a story across the continent that all African nations have been suffering. But then there came a president, you know, who decided that he was going to put a change to all of that. And that president was President Magufuli. And no matter how hard they try, using their Western journalists within their countries, using their outside influences to try and undermine the works of the great man, those of us on the ground, those of us who are Magufuliites, those of us who appreciate the works of this great man, you know, are the ones who continue to rise up his name, just as we've done, you know, with Marcus Messiah Garvey and all the other greats, Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, Nanny of the Maroons, Bookman Dottie, Toussaint Overture, Dessalines, Queen Candice, Kim Pavita, Robert Mugabe, you know, all of them, so many of them, tomorrow in a short while, you know, and when we're joined by Leader Bandak as well, I'm sure he's going to be bringing to our remembrance, you know. And if you want to name some of our greats in the chat, you can do as well, because we keep our greats alive, their names alive. So if you want to remember one of our late greats, then, you know, just drop the name in the chat and, you know, let's keep them alive. So we've got Amina, who's watching us from Northamptonshire. Rise up, rise up. There in the UK, we've got Abina saying, hopefully we will not allow current president or anyone else to take us. That's Tanzania, by population. He was there for the people. And, you know, throughout his war, you know, the people of Tanzania got that feeling has got her work cut out for her. And, you know, it's so concerning you know, some of the signals that we too soon. Let's see. I'm sure it won't be at all popular with the people. We've got Daibi watching from Italy. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Kimani, as well, saying greetings to the family. And Brian to rise up, rise up. Calabash saying health, wealth, and knowledge to self. Yes, yes. Okay. So let me find out what's happening with my backstage guests. Because I can't see anybody backstage now, but I've just got a message to say that Leader Bandaka is waiting backstage. But let me just see what I need to sort out here and now. All righty, make sure that they're clicking on the right link, because I can't see them. Okay, so just let them know that I can't see them, and hopefully they're clicking on the right link. Let me also find out what's happening to our brother Rasul. Brother Kwame did remind me that he may have a bit of an unstable connection, and that seems to have been the case because he's not been able to rejoin us. But I'm certainly hoping that he will be able to rejoin us very soon. In fact, he's trying to reconnect now, which is great news indeed, because, hey, you know what? I've planned to have a panel here. I'm not swinging on my own. So 2K saying, you're breaking up, dear Sister Shanice. Oh, my days. Let's bring on Brother Kwame. You're back with us, Brother Kwame. timely because I'm being told I'm breaking up. So, my brother Kwame, let's see if we can hear you. Welcome back. Okay, I'm not hearing you. Welcome back, my brother. Please check your audio, and family in the chat, let me know if you can hear our brother Kwame, who I'm going to allow to do some opening remarks for us, because we want to get straight into today's program. We've got so much to be discussing with you. Last strong, we just didn't have enough time, you know, to conclude our discussion. So great is the works of this former President Magufuli. His works is just so great. We didn't have the time to go through. Brother Kwame, are you there, or is your line frozen? Brother Kwame? Okay, let me just allow Brother Kwame to come in as soon as he's able to. Brother Kwame, for some reason not hearing you. You're on mute at the moment. Unmute yourself, please. You're on mute at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Now, hey, we got ya. Welcome back, Brother Kwame. While we've got you, let me allow you to give us some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Sister Shanice. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in today to the Sister Shanice show. We want to appreciate our ancestors who have brought us again today here, and to learn and to teach, as they always say in the African proverb, that those who know must teach. So we teach while at the same time we learn. Today I want to also pay tribute to a young man who was murdered in the streets in Minnesota today, a 20-year-old man, in the same streets, almost in the same town where George Floyd was murdered. He was a 20-year-old black man, and as imperialism has continued to, to misbehave and to continue in its way in the mistreatment of black people, we also must continue to stand strong as Africans and defend our people, even when the leadership at the top of the presidency, the neo-colonial leadership, has not been strong enough to defend the African people. He was a very young man with a child and also a girlfriend. So it is very unfortunate that he was shot and killed, and people are protesting in Brooklyn. The town is, in Minneapolis. It is in Minneapolis where he was killed. So we want to pay tribute to him, and we want to say, may his soul rest in power. The African people all over the world have continued to suffer under the hands of white supremacy and the imperialism, but we will continue to stand strong and let those ancestors who have gone to rest continue to empower us to carry on the fight which they started. People like President Magufuli and what he did. We want to continue to appreciate him. Like last time on the program, what we did, it was an appreciation of the work which he has done for us, and also the strategies which he laid and put down for us, so that when we get a chance also to the African leadership, we can also pick up from where he stopped and use the same strategies which he showed us, that we should continue the struggle and be able to liberate our continent whenever we have a chance. So I want to welcome brother leader Mbandaka and all those people who are watching, that the struggle will continue. Thank you very much, Sister Shanice.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame, and thank you for remembering the brother whose life was sadly, tragically taken today. You know, and my brother, this is what's happening to us here outside of Africa, and we look forward to the time when African leaders will stand up for us outside of Africa as well, so that when incidences like this happen, you know, have a president in Africa who will recognize us as children of Africa, outside of Africa, and step in to question the Western governments about incidences, you know, involving the murder of us. Because, you know, if this was a Chinese national, the Chinese government would come in and have something to say, you know? And so we need that protection from the presidents of Africa as well. So thank you for remembering that, brother. And, you know, let's hope that the protests that are happening now in America, you know, will contribute towards bringing about changes that we want to see. And let's welcome Leader Bandaka. So glad you've managed to join us, my brother.
We've been waiting for quite some time, my sister.
You know,
I think we're in the wrong.
Maybe in the wrong, I don't know.
Tone or whatever the correct term is. But, you know, give thanks and praises. We're here, we're together.
Yes, yes. Brilliant, brilliant. I was getting a bit worried, you know, I was thinking, where are my panel members? I'm going to have to do this show.
I was actually watching you, my sister, but obviously you couldn't see me.
No, because what happened, you've literally just come on backstage now. You came on about 5 minutes ago, and I could see Sister Kai there in front of the computer. And then as soon as she moved and I saw you, then I brought you on. Yes, but I don't know what. The technicals, we just have to work with it. But we're delighted to join us. Yeah, brilliant. Now, I'm expecting Brother Rasul to also be joining us from South Africa. I can't see him backstage at the moment either, but as soon as I do, I will be bringing him on as well. So now I've got 2 out of my 3 guests that I'm expecting. Let's do some introductions and some opening remarks. So, Brother Leader, rise up, rise up. Kimani saying, rise up, Brother Leader. So, Brother Leader, please introduce yourself to the Sister Shanice Show family, and let's have maybe just a little recap from last strong of some of the key points that you drew out for us. And then we go over to Brother Kwame and ask him to do the same as well. Brother Leader.
Tendai Mwari Mukuru Kuzai Muzim Mukuru Tendai Mwari. Be thankful unto God. The God of Africa is the greatest above all greats. Give praises unto our ancestors. We say again, be thankful unto God. Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Giving thanks and praises unto Mwari Nyakustika, God the creator of the universe, through Muzimu Mukuru, our great ancestors, for all the blessings that we have been endowed with as a people. And amongst those blessings, we are thankful for the opportunity for us to gather in this virtual hall of faith, this virtual hall of learning, so that we can continue to nurture, nourish, and fine-tune ourselves and make ourselves worthy of being called the children of the Most High, the sons and daughters of Africa, the descendants of Muzimu Mukuru, and indeed to make ourselves worthy of being called freedom fighters. As you have said already, Sister Shanice, my name is Brother Leader Mbandaka. I am the spiritual leader of the Alkebulan revivalist movement, and we are a liberation movement. We're based in the UK, and we're based upon an authentic African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy called Alkebulan Livity, which means living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture. And just to say that we are here to serve. Last Sabbath, we say Sabbath referring to the week, the 7-day period. Saba is a Kiswahili word which means 7. And we talk about the Saba as the week, the 7-day period. And of course, we name the days of the week not in honor of European gods, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which are all names of European deities. And that's why we say day, which is deity. So instead of praising European deities every day, we name the days of the week from the Unguzo Saba. So we have Umoja Day, Kuchichagulia Day, Ujima Day, Ujama Day, Nia Day, Kuumba Day, and Imani Day. So this is the day of Kuchichagulia, which is the 2nd day of the week. So on this day of Kuchichagulia, we are thankful for the opportunity to appear again on your show, Sister Shanice. The work that you are doing is divine, it is blessed, and we honor you for your commitment to our people's liberation through the sacrifices that you make. And we know it's a sacrifice to keep this show going. Last week, we explored the legacy of our brother President Magufuli and the value of Magufuli to the African liberation movement, to the African world community, and the great work that he was doing there on the African continent in Tanzania, shedding a light throughout the African continent and throughout the African world. And what I sought to do as my contribution to the show on behalf of the Alkebulan revivalist movement and those in the community who share our perspective on this particular issue is that we all had a sense, we all had a concern, a suspicion that the life of our beloved brother was at risk, precisely because of the stance that he took, the anti-colonial, anti-imperialist stance, anti-white supremacist stance that he took in Tanzania, not allowing foreign multinational corporations to run amok in Tanzania and to abuse Tanzanian hospitality while they fleece the country of its natural resources, and not allowing foreign states, foreign governments to impose its will on Tanzania. So he stood up in the spirit of African manhood, in the spirit of African womanhood, and he defended the integrity and the sovereignty of that African nation and demonstrated to the rest of African leaders throughout the African continent how it needs to be done, how it must be done. And our thrust was to say to our people worldwide that we cannot just accept the narrative that he died of natural causes. We would have failed him and we would have squandered his sacrifice by simply accepting that he died of natural causes. If he did, then our interrogation of the facts will stand up to scrutiny. But if he didn't, then as we push and demand the truth, we will get closer and we will unearth the facts that will aggregate to the truth that we're all seeking. So that's my opening remarks. We must, beloved brothers and sisters, we must press hard for the truth and for justice. And let me just add very quickly to that. Not only do we want to know the truth about the sudden death of Baba Magufuli, but every single African leader, progressive African leader and progressive African government that has been toppled or assassinated, we want the truth about the demise or the destruction of these leaders and these governments, and we must continue to demand that. Tendai man.
10-time Wari. Absolutely agree with you, Leader Bandaka, and thank you so, so much, you know, for that opening. Let's go over to our brother, Kwame Konza. Please introduce yourself, my brother, and a brief recap, if you don't mind, from Last Strong, and your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Shanice. As already spoken, my name is Kwame Gonza from Ghana, and generally I would say from Africa. I think it is important for us to always identify ourselves as Africans, first of all, because the people who are dividing us and exploiting us have used these divisions of saying that I'm from Ghana, I'm from Senegal, I'm from, you know, Ethiopia, I'm from Rwanda, Egypt, I'm from Morocco, and all this. And because they divided it, so they use this narrative, you know, and strengthened themselves on the continent by amplifying this kind of thinking and riding on that tribalism to be able to divide the continent. But first, I as Africans, so that the people, the black people in the United States, once they identify themselves as Africans, then when they are killed in the streets, definitely we Africans in Africa, we immediately say these are our brothers, and the people are easily, they will easily be able to identify with a brother who is being murdered and whose human rights are being violated in the streets of Beijing. But when you say I'm an African American or I'm an American and you are black and we know that you are African, then it's like you have put yourself off, you know, the continent, or a Kenyan, then you have separated yourself from the continent. And this, you have created space for the enemies who are the imperialists to continue to divide us. So I would like to say that I'm an African, I'm from Africa. I'm working with the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute as the Director of Public Relations and Media. And also, I'm on the board of the Rapid Africa Plan and also on the board of Africa 55 states. Last time we went to a bigger, a big length to look at the good things which our ancestor Magufuli did for us as Africans, and the dignity which he brought to us. We identified that as Black people, as Africans all around the world, we have been waiting for a very long time, or we are constantly waiting for that person who will occupy that position of a prophet to bring back the dignity. People like, for example, Kwame Nkrumah or Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. You can see that whenever they stood on a pedestal and they were speaking, you could see that the Black people are energized. They feel like their dignity, they are dignified, the dignity has been brought back. So we see that President Magufuli, to a larger extent, occupied this kind of position for us because he stood for what is really African, and he stood for what represents us. He stood for the thinking, for the African way of thinking. Everything he questioned it in an African way, whether it is the vaccines, whether it is their way of economics, whether it is their way of politics, everything he was questioning it. And this is the kind of leadership which we want to see on the continent. And maybe the other thing which we did not talk about, because the topic was the death of President Magufuli and other leaders in Tanzania, about 10 of them, 4 to 10 of them who died during that period. We have to remember that during the overthrow of the Black Panthers in the United States, they tried to dismantle, because these are the tactics of the CIA and the imperialists and whatever they do when they are destroying our movements. So they go ahead to destroy the people who are around you, because they know that when you came to power, you gathered people who are like-minded, people who think like you, and you put a team together who will be able to govern with you, who will be able, even if you are removed from the scene, people who will be able to carry on the vision. And in most cases, when they come and they eliminate you, they try to, clean out all these people who are surrounding you. It's the same thing which happened in Ghana in 1966 when Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. You can see that when he was overthrown, all the people, the ministers who were, around him and who were conscious of what was going on, who were running the government, they tried to chase them out of the continent, out of the country. They banned all the literature which he had written. They tried to ban all the books which Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had written, because they know that these ideas had, started being propagated, and they were entering inside the people. So these are some of the tactics which they use. But just like Kwame Nkrumah said, that the torch which have lit in Africa, he said that I'm of the knowledge that the torch which have lit in Ghana and Africa cannot be extinguished, that long after I'm gone, long after I'm gone,
We've just lost Brother Kwame there. He's just frozen, and he was just reminding us, that they can't extinguish that torch, that fire, that our great leader has already lit. But our brother will join us again as soon as he can. And as you can see, we've been joined by our brother Rasul. Welcome, Brother Rasul.
Thank you for having me, and greetings to everyone.
It's our pleasure. My brother Rasul,
Greetings, my brother.
Please introduce yourself to the family. And we were just getting some opening remarks on today's topic for discussion. So please introduce yourself, and we welcome you to make some opening remarks, please.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Rasul Snyman. I'm from South Africa. I'm a political activist, a social commentator, a public intellectual, filmmaker, writer, author, poet. Yeah, that's who I am, the founder of the anti-treason movement. I've been the chairperson of the Palestine Support Committee for 7 years. Yeah, that's what I do.
Welcome. It's such a privilege to have you join us all the way from South Africa. Absolutely brilliant. My brother, we are into part 2 of our discussion on the late, great President Magufuli. And we started looking last week at some of his achievements and his accomplishments, but, they were so vast, we were unable to even begin to mention all of them. And, there was just so much to this man. We were looking at, the extent to which his passing was actually genuine or possibly foul play. And so we started peeling back, some of what he was doing, the big heads that he was stamping on, and hopefully you had a chance to watch, the show that we did last Stroll. But let's hear some opening remarks from your perspective from South Africa's perspective as well, regarding President Magufuli and some of your initial thoughts and comments.
Well, fundamentally, he had been a great leader. He was someone who had his heart rooted amongst the people and was a patriot to his country. He was also a Pan-Africanist, and he was a man of integrity and was someone who really served the people. His demise will affect Africa, not only Tanzania or his country, it will affect Africa as a whole. Further, it also brings to light the role of other African leaders in emulating him or discarding him or ignoring him or turning around all his gains and turning them to nothing. So we're currently looking at the country now, at Tanzania now, and saying, what will happen to the progress? Because in all countries, there's one step forward and two steps backward, depending on who is in power. And that has been the curse of Africa. It's leaders who undo the gains of other leaders. And one can see this in the Thomas Sankara Lumumba equation. Even, for example, Kwame Nkrumah, one can see how people undid what he did. It's not that we don't have progressive leaders. We have people who step into their shoes and undo what they have done. Now, for us as Africans, we have to begin to say, where do we go to from here? How do we retain the progress, and how do we ensure that our leaders are not killed? How do we ensure that our leaders are not removed? How do we ensure that we, the people, are conscious of the fact that our future is in our hands, and we can't be apathetic and watch things happen and be quiet about it? If we are apathetic, then we create the monsters, and we have to accept culpability for that. We have to indict ourselves, because if we are not active, we do not see the broader political picture, then we become complicit to the crimes and criminality. As you can see, Magufuli is dead now. You know, where's the outroar, the uproar, the outrage? Where's the anger? Where are the people on the streets demanding that the AU investigate? Where are these kinds of action? The same thing happened with the death of Lumumba. Where were the people? Where were the people after Sankara? Where were the people after Kwame Nkrumah was removed? Where were the people when Chris Hani was killed? The people are apathetic, and that is the major problem with African politics, is that we leave politicians to rule. We create the problems, and then afterwards bemoan the fact that our leaders are doing us wrong, when we ourselves do not hold them to account. Unless we understand the process that we, the people, are the government, we, the people, are the state that employs the government, we're not going to get much done. All we're going to do is elect wolves who will feed off us every time they feel like feeding off us, and we will remain silent and continue to be sheep.
Wow.
That's my humble opinion.
We hear you on that, and Dee saying that you know, she agrees with you there as well. And Ngongi is saying the curse of Africa is the people have forgotten they are the power and not the leader. The leaders, as we know, they're supposed to serve us, the people. And you know, the comments there actually agreeing with you that we are the ones who need to be taking more firmer action. And you're right, where is the outcry? You know, where is the outrage? We are definitely calling for an investigation by having these panel discussions. Our hope and our aim is that we will keep, you know, the name of Magufuli alive, and the demand and the call for an investigation alive as well. But then who do we go to investigate this matter as well? Should it be a people's tribunal? Should it be us, the people, who's actually looking into the circumstances and the circumstantial evidence that's available? That's something, you know, we need to be, I think, airing here as well? Or could we be calling on another nation that might be to some extent independent of the West, you know, for them to investigate it? The AU, you know, to what extent are they independent as well? So these are some of the critical questions. But thank you so much for those opening remarks, Brother Rasul. And, you know, you mentioned the names of some of our, you know, leaders who work for the people as well, who were also, you know, taken out. And Leader Bandaka on our last show was reminding us of the number of assassinations and the number of coups and the hidden hands behind those events as well in Africa. And as you have just, you know, pointed out, that have largely gone unchallenged as well. And now the evidence 30, 40, 50 years later is laid bare to show that in some incidences, or most of them, the CIA was actually involved in taking out those leaders as well. I'm getting a feedback, Rasul, it might be from your line because it started with your connection. I wonder if you could turn the volume down just a touch, please, on your device, or just put yourself on mute when you're not talking, please. Thank you so, so much. Now, at the last, on the last show, I didn't get the chance to mention the names of those 10 top officials that had, that also seem to have been, well, they've all died within the same month, and it's just so bizarre. Too coincidentally, in my opinion, you know. So I just wanted to mention their names because, you know, I believe that by mentioning their names, we're keeping their memory alive. And I'm hoping that, you know, people who knew them and knew of their works can actually maybe join the conversation through the chat and give us, enlighten us as to the roles and the works of some of these who have been taken out. Please allow me to just mention their names. I'm going to go through them, but 10 Tanzanian state personnel died within 1 month. So we had on the 4th of February, Professor, first of all, and also please accept my apologies if I don't pronounce the names right as well. Professor Gwadums Mapangala, who was an analyst on various issues, especially political matters. I want to rise up Brother Kwame Gonzo as well for reminding us that usually, you know, leaders, when they come in, they will surround themselves with like-minded people. And so these would have been, you know, the people who he would have gone to, presumably, for advice, for guidance, those who would have been tabling, you know, policy documents and providing, you know, legal advice, who would have been teaching in universities, you know, the Magufuli way. So on the 4th, we had Professor Gwadons Mapangala, an analyst on various issues, especially political matters, who died on the 4th of February. Then on the 9th of February, Dr. Peter Mariro died. He was a lecturer at the Sokoine University of Agriculture. Then 3 days later, on the 6th, Professor Delphina Mamiro, who was also a lecturer at the Sokoine University of Agriculture, and they were husband and wife, died within 3 days of each other. Yeah, they were lecturers at the University of Agriculture, and as we know, you know, President Magufuli was pursuing, a Tanzanian agricultural policy, which did not, you know, involve the Monsantos and Bill Gates. They actually decided that they didn't want to go down the road of the GMO, Bill Gates experiments that they were pursuing. So, you know, they would have really unsettled some of these big players by making that decision. So they died. Then 3 days later, on the 12th of February, the former Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Mr. Bakari Mapang Pachu, he died. And then on the same day, the 12th of February, a lawmaker and former Deputy Minister of Works, Transport and Communication, Mr. Atashasa Nditiye, he died. So that was on the 12th, and then a couple of days later, on the 15th, 3 days later, Dr. Mohammed Saif Khatib, a politician who held several ministerial positions, he died. 2 days later, on the 17th of February, Zanzibar's first vice president and national chairman of the opposition party, he died. Also on the 17th of February, Chief Secretary Ambassador John Kijazi died. Then on the 20th of February, the former Finance and Planning Permanent Secretary, Dr. Sevavicius Likwili, died. A few days later, on the 22nd of February, Professor Bino Ndulu, who was the former Bank of Tanzania governor, passed as well. On the 17th, there was another one and then on the 17th of March, of course, you know, the president himself. Now, when you consider the British government, for example, and its ministers and top officials, I mean, we just don't hear of those number of deaths ever at all. Let me go around the panel now and get some thoughts and opinions about, you know, all those top officials who have died within 1 month. You know, was there a hidden hand sending messages to President Magufuli before he met an untimely death? Let me go over first of all, please, to Brother Kwame Konza.
Thank you, Sister Shanice. As you have said, the people, we've seen that most of these leaders who have been removed from power, either by overthrowing, killing them directly when they're in power, they are, they have been using the people who are very, very close to them. And with this, we should not at any point or in any way be scared of calling out President Suhulu Samia Hassan and the direction where she's taking the African nation of Tanzania. So if we see that she's rolling back the policies which President Magufuli had started, and these policies which are making us as Africans very proud and which are bringing back our dignity, we are seeing that we are a people who are now proud because of these achievements which President Magufuli has done. Then we have to start questioning her. I think we as the Pan-African bodies, then we have to start writing down letters to her and questioning her why she's rolling back all these gains which were made by President Magufuli. Just to recap on the names which you have mentioned, I noticed that one of the most important departments or ministries which you mentioned where a minister died was the Ministry of Transport and Communication. And we see that this is one of the departments where the president had made a lot of progress. When you talk about railway, the standard gauge railway which they were building, when you talk about this railway which is going to be electric, you talk about transport. You are talking about the dam which is being built, the Nyerere, Julius Nyerere dam, which is 2,000 megawatts. That this is the dam which was going to power the standard gauge railway, so that there's no power problem, there's no electricity problem, because the train is going to be fully electric, it's not going to run on diesel. So all these infrastructure, the roads, the highways which we are going on, being built at a very, very high speed, these are things which we need to bring in context, and we don't need to forget. We have to remember that, sorry for the noise, there is some people who have come around, but what continues slowly. We have to remember that the war which President Magufuli was running, which he was fighting, he was fighting against our greatest enemy. Our greatest enemy has not always been us. Our greatest enemy has always been those people who want possession, who want covet, who want to purloin our resources in Africa. And that is the problem which he has been fighting. So when he identified the major problem, then he was able to find a solution for it. He saw that these are the problem. The problem is not us. There's a lot of people who have been saying that we are the problem, we the African people, because we are corrupted, because we are this, but when you examine very well the hierarchy of how this problem is, you can see that we have good people within us. We have potential, people with a lot of potential. We have, like how you have mentioned, we have professors in universities, a lot of them who can do a lot of work, who are conscious about where Africa should go, where Africa is supposed to be. But these people are not respected by the system. So the biggest problem we have in Africa is the system that was crafted from outside Africa and brought and dumped on Africa. So this system is maintained by a cartel of corporations around the world that are exploiting Africa. Last time we mentioned, for example, the corporation which is exploiting the gold in Tanzania, which he identified himself. One of those corporations was Barrick Gold, which is from Canada, and then he identified Acacia Mining, which is from the UK. These corporations are working in conjunction, they are cooperating together, and then they are exploiting the gold in the country and other mineral resources. So he identified this as the problem. So always our problem has been the foreigners, and especially the Europeans. So they come to the continent, they identify a few people who they can corrupt, and they connive together to take out the resources. And when a good leader comes, like President Magufuli, they still find those few people to connive with those corrupt people and take out the good leader and continue the process of exploiting and giving Africa bad deals. So, and unfortunately, some people, they identify this, they don't really get it very well. They blanket all the African people around, and they say that the Africans are corrupt. You see, but when in actual sense, our problem is coming from outside. So how do we deal with this problem? So there is no one strategy which we can say that this is how we are going to deal with this external problem, which is exploiting our resources as Africans. But I would suggest that the first thing we have to do is we have to identify ourselves with Africa. We have to come out of the small states, whether it is Egypt, whether it is Morocco, whether it is Uganda, Central African Republic, Senegal, South Africa, Gambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, Ghana. We have to identify ourselves as Africans first of all, because when the French are exploiting, when they are exploiting in West Africa, like what is happening in Niger and Mali, they don't care whether it is Mali or Niger. They come here to exploit resources, African resources. That is what they are concerned about. When the British come to East Africa and they want to, they want to exploit the resources, like this Acacia Mining is a British company in Tanzania. They don't care where the resources are in Africa, whether they are in Tanzania or South Africa. They just come to exploit African resources. So we have to understand that the resources in Africa belong to us all. They belong to us. So whether you are in Tanzania, the resources in Congo belong to you. Those resources are African. Whether you are an African in the United States, we have seen, like we said, that the young man who was killed in the streets in the United States today in Minneapolis, the young man who's called Duante Wright. So this is linked. The web, this exploitation is linked. This murder is linked. If it is the war in Mozambique, all these things are linked with the exploitation of the African resources, because it is capitalism trying to hold its grip on the African resources. They are trying to find all means, all ways. So once we start with identifying ourselves with Africa, and they say we are Africans, so I'm going to be concerned about what is happening in Congo. If I'm in Kenya, I'm going to be concerned about what is happening in Congo. I'm going to be concerned about what is happening in Niger. France has no right to be in Niger and dictate. It has no right to be, France has no right to be in Central African Republic and dictate what is happening here. The United States has no right to be on the African continent with its military bases. And we resist these things. We talk about them as Africans. And the leaders, we hold them accountable. We hold them accountable. We have to push them. We have to force their hand. And especially the youth. I want to appeal to the youth especially, because the future of the continent is in their hands. These people, some of them are 70 years, 76 years, are going to go away. Some of them are not going even to last the next 5 years, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 10 years. So the youth always have to be at the forefront. They have to take the responsibility, because the thing is that freedom, the price for freedom is death. So that has always been. So those who are willing to die to get the freedom, they get it. So let no one lie to us. Let no one lie to anyone that we are always going to come out and protest on the street and that is all. So we have to be willing to go the extra mile if we want to rescue the continent. Just to talk about the consumption of resources, when you go to a country like the United States, for example, why it has been able to last so long, or at the top of the world economy for all these years, they are consuming, even though they constitute 5% of the world population, they are consuming 25% of the world's resources. This is insane. When you go and read the Economic Hitman by John Perkins, he tells you that if all of us are going to live like how the United States is living, the whole world is going to live like this, then we need about 7 planets, you see. So we cannot live in this kind of greed. We cannot live in this kind of unsustainable way. So we have to look at these things and say, these people, the imperialists who are exploiting our resources, we have to point them out. And then the people who are conniving with them to exploit these resources and take them out and kill people like President John Magufuli, we have to point them out. The leaders who are acting irresponsibly, 96% of the leaders on the continent, they are acting irresponsibly. We have to call them out. We have to call them out and say, President Cyril Ramaphosa, you are seeing what is happening all over Africa. Come out. The African people have suffered enough. President, Nanado, come out. Stop. You people stop signing deals which are so bad like this. Why can't we learn from President Magufuli? And we call out President Uhuru Kenyatta in Kenya. Why do you continue? We have just buried a man, and you were there. We buried President Magufuli. He never borrowed any money. Why are you continuing to go out to the IMF to go and borrow monies? What is the problem? Doesn't the country have resources? So where is your voice? President Uhuru Kenyatta, when France is misbehaving all over the continent. So this is the way we have to hold them accountable. We call them out. President Tshisekedi of the Congo, what is happening in the Congo? Why are resources being exploited like this under your watch? Why are you just sitting on the side? So all of them, we have to start calling them out. We have to be responsible for the continent. We have to say that we are the young generation, and we are going to stay here when you people are gone. So these deals which you are signing that are leading to the exploitation, the indiscriminate exploitation of our continent, we cannot allow it again. And it is very good that Europe has continued to push back our people so that they can stay on the continent. I like it that in that way we can stay here and continue to build up the pressure so that it will reach a certain extent and they cannot continue to resist us. They cannot continue to resist. We will take the power, or the governments by force, so that we can be able to bring about the development, the much desired development. But what I would like to say is that Africa has enough people. We have over 63% literacy rate. If you put up and add the Africans outside the continent, the United States, Caribbean, everywhere, we have enough skilled manpower to run this continent. The only thing which we need, we just need a little organization of our resources, material, human, and then all these people are enough for us to run the continent. It is not that we are inherently corrupt. Corruption is existent everywhere. What we need is just to identify those people like Magufuli and the team which he himself had identified, and then we put them in those particular positions, and we have to run the whole continent. We cannot keep running the small states. The small states, we are always going to fail because our continent is huge and our enemy always has a way of penetrating through. And this is the warning which Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was giving the people in 1963 in Ethiopia. He told them that if we do not unite here today, in 1963, he said if we do not unite today, they are going to overthrow each of us. Because for him, he perceived it, he have a gap to penetrate. And that gap is the disintegration. The disintegrated Africa is prone to penetration and manipulation. So whenever we are running Africa, we have to identify ourselves as Africans. And then whenever we get a chance, we have to push the African agenda. Thank you very much, Sister Shanice.
Absolutely agree with you on all of what you said there, Brother Kwame Gonza. First and foremost, we are indeed Africans. First and foremost, we are one people from the same root, absolutely. Whether we're Africans living on the continent or Africans living outside of the continent, as melanated people, first and foremost, we are Africans and must identify ourselves as such, and not allow, for all of these different nationalities and ethnic groups to be used to divide us. Absolutely agree with you on all of that. And we certainly do have the skills and potential to run the continent ourselves without, outside interference. If we were only left to get on with it, imagine what President Magufuli could have done for Tanzania had he been given another 5 years. Imagine what he could have done for the entire continent, had he been given the opportunity to do so. And as people have said, in the chat, for how long will we stand by and watch as they take out our great leaders, those who are indeed for the continent? Let me go over now, please, to Brother Leader Bandaka. Brother Leader Bandaka, I've just read the names of, some of President Magufuli's inner circle members, top officials, ministers, those holding high places, and there are a number of other equally, individuals holding high positions in other African countries as well. But I know we're focusing on Tanzania as well, but this isn't unique to Tanzania. I mean, what on earth is going on? Brother Leader Bandaka, I welcome your thoughts and comments on this really, in my opinion, unbelievable list of deaths within 1 month among such high-ranking officials. What are your thoughts, my brother?
I'm as startled as you, Sister Shanice, and I want to give due respect and recognition to the pronouncements of Brother Rasul and Brother Kwame and the contributions that they have already made. I think the roll call that you have just done, Sister Shanice, is worthy of a moment's pause and reflection, just to absorb what it is that you have just unfolded, what it is that you have just shared with us, not for the first time, that indeed within a very short space of time, 10 state officials of the Tanzanian state, the Tanzanian government, have died in an unusually very short space of time. I agree with you 100%. That has to be cause for concern. And to reiterate the expressions of Brother Rasul, and I want to just really stress how much I appreciate his comments and the earnest with which he spoke this evening, asking the question, where is the outrage? Where is the outrage? Where are the people, he says? Where are the people? At a time like this, when so many of us suspect foul play, where are our voices? And you will recall, Sister Shanice, me saying in a previous program that we cannot let this time pass and just mark it with polite reflections on the life of Pombe Magufuli and all the great and wonderful things that he has done. We can't just allow this time to be suspended in platitudes that we pay to Pombe Magufuli, without being bold enough and brave enough to stand up and to turn to the authorities within the African continent, starting with the government of Tanzania and the African Union. As you know, Sister Shanice, the Alkebulan revivalist movement has put out a statement, which was also recorded, me reading the statement, where we have demanded an investigation by the Tanzanian government, by the African Union, and we have called on our people and the people of Tanzania in particular to demand this investigation. It's got to start with that. And with all the imperfections, you are right, my sister, that the African Union, you ask the question, is the African Union really independent? What legal mechanism do we subject this process to? Well, our ancestors said to count sand, we start from where we stand. So we have to start from where we are. We have to start with the Tanzanian government. And we have to then move to the African Union and demand of the African Union to support the Tanzanian government in investigating this death and investigating the deaths of so many African leaders, progressive African leaders, in very suspicious circumstances. We the people must demand that. And we must organize ourselves as the grassroots so that our voices will have some clout. Our voices will have some effect. At present, we are disorganized. And that is a big, big problem in the African world. Even those of us who call ourselves conscious have not enabled ourselves to organize on the levels that we need to, so that our voices and our activism has the maximum effect. And that's something we have to critically look at. And you know, my sister, as you were calling out the names, my mind went back to the late 80s, 1989, 1990. 1990, when Nelson Mandela was released, and when we were all jumping up and rejoicing about the release of Nelson Mandela. You know, what we did not observe is the extent to which radical African voices and Brother Rasul is in a position to speak to this even better than I can. But radical African voices were being silenced in Azania, South Africa, even as we were rejoicing the release of Nelson Mandela. Names like Zephaniah Motopeng, Jephthah Masimola, either died of natural causes in 1990 or in a car accident in 1990. Sietsi Mashinini, who had left South Africa in exile after the Soweto uprising. He was one of the youth leaders of the Soweto uprisings. He had to leave Azania, South Africa, in exile. He was actually in Guinea. And the long arm of white supremacy snuffed him out in Guinea, all the way in Guinea in 1990. And there were a number of, you mentioned Chris Hanning, Brother Rasul. He died, he was killed a few years later, 1993, was it? But that was round about the time over those few years that so many African leaders, so many radical voices in Azania was being neutralized. So many radical activists were being neutralized. Kenny Motsumai was imprisoned round about that time. A number of them were imprisoned. We still have political prisoners in South Africa from that time. So this is nothing new. This kind of what you might call a clean sweep is nothing new. And we have to ask ourselves some serious questions. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Brother Rasul said a few things this evening that echoed some of the things I tried to say a week or so ago. That if we fail to protect our leaders who stand up in our name and against the forces of oppression, if we fail to protect them, then we are setting them up for assassination. And the beginning of our ability to protect our leaders must be our capacity to interrogate their untimely and suspicious deaths, and do that forcefully and determinedly, so that the enemy knows that they cannot just act with impunity, that we will come after them. We are not going to accept that our leaders die from natural causes when they clearly are suspicious circumstances. But we have got to do this from a position of organization. That is our biggest problem. That is our biggest problem. We are just not organized on the level at which we should be organized. And until we find it in ourselves to discipline ourselves and to build the kind of organizations we need on the national level, and connect with national organizations so that we can organize on an international level, so that at a time like this we can coordinate our responses internationally. Until we do that, we will just be whistling in the wind, and we cannot continue to whistle in the wind, and we cannot continue to demand of our leaders to stand up and be counted when we are not willing or able to stand up as the people and be counted. At crucial times, this impunity will continue, because through our passivity, we court that kind of impunity. We create the environment whereby our oppressors, the oppressor, can oppress us with impunity, can assassinate our leaders with impunity, because we do not have the strength of union, we do not have the strength of organization to hold them to account, to expose them. We don't have that because we're not organized. The most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, urged us that wherever we are in the world, we must organize ourselves as a nation of people. He said, unite, organize now or perish. Unite, organize now or perish. And if we heard him, if we heard him, we have not responded. We have not in the manner of the sustained level of organization that we need to engage in. So those are my comments at the moment, my beloved sister. We have got to take this thing on another level. We have got to take this thing on otherwise, and another Magufuli, the fate of a future Magufuli is inevitable. This pattern will continue. African leaders who are scrupulous, progressive, liberationist, revolutionary will have a short life expectancy. It will continue to be 5 years, 6 years, 4 years in the case of Thomas Sankara. And those sellouts, those agents of global white supremacy, those agents of Euro-American imperialism will continue to live forever and reincarnate themselves, as I said last week, in their sons, as in the case of Omar Bongo, 42 years. And then when he died, his son took over. Yes? Etienne Dezembe Eyedama, the assassin in chief of Sylvanus Olympia, whose crime was that he was printing togos. He was fed up of the CFA that was pegged to the French franc at the time. And he said, no more of this nonsense. I'm printing Togo's own currency. 3 days into printing Togo's currency, he was a dead man. And the man who killed him became president for life. And when he died, he passed it on, the presidency, to his son. And we see this throughout the African continent. The politics of Africa is not conducive to the liberation, the empowerment of African people. It is not conducive to the economic freedom that we want, because what we have are agencies of Euro-American imperialism. We have gatekeepers of Euro-American imperialism and global white supremacy posing as our leaders for the most part. That is not going to deliver us, because they are not there for that purpose. They are there to preserve the interests of their masters, and that is what they will continue to do. And every time we have a leader like Pombo Magufuli, they will take him out, because there's nothing to stop them. And I'm worried.
Then I'm worried. Brother Leah Bandaka, you mentioned in your opening that the Alkebulan revivalist movement have issued a statement calling for an investigation, and we are calling on everybody to write to the Tanzanian embassies, in whichever country they're in, to join the Alkebulan revivalist movement in calling for an investigation. I wonder if you could let people know where they can find the statement, and where they can find any standard letters, or at least have the statement that they can adapt to join in that call. I mean, I wrote to the embassy as well after hearing that call, and I don't even think I've got a response. I'll have to follow that up. But if enough of us are writing and demanding and calling for an investigation, maybe we will get a response. Please just let the people know, my brother, where they can find that statement calling for an investigation and how they can support it.
If they go to Alkebulan, ALKEBULAN, Alkebulan.org. That is the website of the Alkebulan revivalist movement. And
spell that
there'll be ALKEBULAN, Alkebulan revivalist, sorry, just Alkebulan.org. And then it will be signposted from there, brothers and sisters. You navigate your way from there, and the statement is there. There's also footage of me actually reading that statement, and I would encourage brothers and sisters, when you do, every single one of you listening or who will view this program, to write to the embassy. You are at liberty to use all or part of that statement as you wish, or you write your own statement, your own letter. When you send it, please notify Sister Shanice or the Alkebulan Revivalist Movement, or both of us, that you have done that. So we'll be able to monitor how many brothers and sisters are indeed doing that. That has got to be our starting. That's a starting point. That's where I think we should start, and then we can decide on how we press on from there. Tendai Mari.
Tendai Mari, thank you, Leader Bandaka. There were a number of people in the chat asking what next, what can we do? And I think, as you said, this is an important next step. Let's please go over to Brother Rasul. I know you put a number of questions in your remarks that you were making to our Brother Rasul. My brother, over to you. Let's hear from you.
Firstly, thank you very much for the succinct interrogation of the statements made, the scenarios, the environment, and I think it points to what are we going to do. It's no more about if and but about how. The question facing us now is how, when, who's going to do it. I like the fact that there's a statement going out, but one has to look at how to give force to the statement because there has to be a rebalancing of power. There has to be a rebalancing where power is located amongst Africans rather than the Europeans. The word that keeps coming up constantly is impunity. The Europeans do to us with impunity what we wouldn't do to them with impunity. And that, for me, indicates a power balance or a power imbalance, where they can come and remove our governments. They can come and overthrow our governments. They can engage in regime change. But we don't do the same. Why so? They can use a bullet to change our histories. They can use one person against the other to change the course of our histories. Why can't we do the same to them? They will come and put up army bases here in Africa, but we've never thought of putting up an army base in Europe, for example, because it's an imbalance of power. It's because we haven't realized who we are. We haven't realized the strengths that we have. We haven't realized the fight in our minds that we need to fight. For example, why don't we go to Europe and exploit Europe, for example? Why should Europeans always be coming here to exploit us? Should we remain sheep while the wolves come here and eat us, or should we become wolves too? A sheep will not solve a wolf problem. Only a wolf will solve a wolf problem. Now, for me, it's about power thinking. It's how do we think from a point of power? How do we begin to think of ourselves as powerful people? Because if we think as weak people, even our governments will make bad deals. They will continue to make bad deals because we allow them to make bad deals, because we, the people, do not hold them to account. We never ask them to say, you signed a deal, give us the deal to scrutinize. Let us, the people, approve the deal. Let us approve the terms and conditions of the deal, because at the end of the day, we are the people who will pay the price. It's not the politicians or the political class that pays the price. It's we, the ordinary people. So it takes us back to the power relationships we have with our politicians and the power relation our politicians have with the West. Now, if our politicians are weak, then obviously they're going to give away our resources to the West because it benefits them. They get the crumbs, but the cake goes out the country and the people remain poor. Now, we have to get tired of poverty. We have to become angry. We're not an angry people. We're very passive. We accept what they do and we say next time, or we go sit in some church and pray and say, Jesus will save us. You know, but that is not how politics works. Politics works on the basis that the people get angry, the people act, the people organize, the people give force to themselves because they are the state. The government is not the state. The government is an employee of the state. Now we have a position as the anti-treason movement. The anti-treason movement was formed to hold governments to account and charge them for treason. We'd like to see our presidents in jail if they have betrayed the rights of the people. We would like to see the African Union in jail if they have betrayed the rights of the people or the interests of the people. Now, treason, one has to understand what constitutes treason. Treason is when someone sells the interest of, let's say, a country to a foreigner or an outsider to benefit themselves. Now, our government, under the rubric of foreign investment, is selling the interests of our people to foreigners under the rubric of foreign investment, and they take our gold and they employ us to help them take our gold. This is the dilemma and dichotomy and the hypocrisy of our own thinking. We want to say the West is taking our gold, but we work in the mines for a salary. We are the ones digging the gold, giving the Westerners, and the Westerners take it away. If we put our tools down tomorrow, there's no mine that will function. There's absolutely no mine that will function. If we threatened our government and said, we'll remove you, we'll jail you, we'll even execute you, believe me, there'd be no concessions. But we have to get back our power. We have to realize our power. We have to begin to start thinking. We're not thinking anymore. And if we're thinking as victims. So we have to dump the victim mentality. We have to dump the victim rhetoric and begin to have a power framework and work within the power framework and understand that we are the people. We are the power. We have our future in our hands. It's not that we lack agency. It's that we do not want to embrace our agency. We don't want to take our agency and make change. Now, one could say that's Afro-pessimistic. For me, that's a critical analysis. It's a critical analysis. If we want to turn our continent around, we have to assess ourselves and say, are we living up to scratch? Are we free to do the things that we do? Are we free to think the way that we think? For example, if we put $1 each, everybody puts $1 and we put a price on someone's head, you know, believe me, that person will change. If we put up a website and on that website it becomes a website of shame, where we put every African leader, we grade him, we put his history, we say, is he performing, isn't he performing? And this guy is a wanted person as far as we, the people, are concerned. We've got to change how we think. We've got to change how we engage. We've got to change what we want. Because if we don't have the vision of one Africa, of one powerful Africa, then the dream of an Africa is only something that's located in the realm of theory. We need now to talk about praxis. We need to talk when, who, how. That's our task that we need to do now. If we, for example, say we want an investigation into Magufuli's death, we should propose, we should say we want an investigation and we want so-and-so, or let's say, for example, the framework is that we need an objective party to investigate. We need a skilled party to investigate. We are making the allegation, and we shouldn't just recommend, we should make an allegation based on the evidence that is there. Even if it's circumstantial evidence, we make the allegation and we demand an investigation. We say, for example, someone put up there, let's ask the Cuban doctors. Why not? Why not say a investigative group that comprises of, let's say, members of the AU, that comprises of civil society, and that comprises of the Cuban doctors. Let's put that entity together. Let's begin to start investigating. Let's start doing forensics. Let's begin to pull all the people that we know. I am loath to believe that we don't have the skilled people in Africa who can investigate a crime. If, for example, 11 British parliamentarians died, believe me, you wouldn't stop hearing the end of it. We'd hear conspiracy, we'd hear all of that being thrown on the table. But 11 or 12 or 30 ministers of African descent die, and it's nothing, it's just something to comment on social media. What are we going to do about it? Why don't we get a petition that makes clear demand? We say we want A, B, C, D, E. Why don't we set up an anti-treason movement in every country and charge the presidents for treason? Why don't we put up the website and say this website here delineates which president is for Africa, which president is against Africa, and start cleaning the ranks? I think it was Nat Turner who said, when you're starting a revolution, you call for people to join the revolution. If 10 people step forward, the first thing they have to do is kill the other 90. You know, and we have to cleanse our ranks, because what happens is the other 90 are the ones who are waiting for you to do the dirty work. And the minute the dirty work is done, they step into your shoes and undo everything that you've done. Africa would not be where it is without the complicity of the traitors that sell it out. We've got to be realistic about that. The lessons are there. The lessons are there in Sankara. The lessons are there in Lumumba. The lessons are there in Hani. The lessons are there in almost every leader we can look at that has been killed. Here we're looking at Magufuli. The lesson is there too. If he dies, all the advances are rolled back. So it's one step forward, 10 steps backwards. If we continue with this framework, if we continue with this paradigm, then Africa will not develop. Africa will develop the day we look at, let's say, for example, we identify a Westerner that is financing guns for diamonds. We should put a price on his head. We should want him dead or alive, bring him before our courts and hold him to account. We should now develop, we should write to the African Union and say we want an African court. And in that court, we want funding for an investigative unit that functions like Interpol, that can go and kidnap someone and make him stand before our court. Because the West is not afraid to come and kidnap an African and hold him before their court. Why can't we go and kidnap a corporate head of a corporation and hold him to account in Africa before our courts, before our people, and we pass judgment on him? We cannot continue like this. You cannot do the same thing over and over and over and expect different results. We've got to change the way we think, the way we do things, the way we interpret power, not only power between us and our politicians, but power between Africa and the rest of the world. We have America, for example, which comes here and it's got plans like the New American Century, for example, where it looks at dominating us. It dominates us through a multi-spectrum dominance. Why don't we have a multi-spectrum dominance scenario for Europe or America or whoever else is coming to exploit us? If we sit and there's a multinational company that can control the gold in Ghana, why don't we have a multinational entity that can take care of those who control the gold in Ghana? You know, someone has to account, and only we are able to hold those people to account. And we're not going to hold those people to account if we continue thinking like sheep. We have to begin to think like wolves. We have to begin to have power. We have to begin to think power. If we continue to see ourselves as weak Africans and say, oh yeah, they took our gold, that's fine. That time has passed. That time has passed. Now is the time to stand up. We know the problem. The question is, what are we going to do about it? When are we going to do something about it? How are we going to do something about it? It's no more theory, it's praxis. If we need to form an African counterinsurgency unit that works against the corporations, because the corporations are insurgents. They're not people that came here in a friendly manner. They are insurgents that come here to destabilize Africa. We should view them as combatants. They are not investors. They are combatants that are coming here and bringing war. If we don't comply with what they want, they'll send in their mercenaries and they'll destabilize our countries and they'll overthrow our government. These are not investors. These are soldiers, and we should treat them as soldiers. That's finished. That's in my humble opinion. It's what we need to change is here.
Absolutely, absolutely agreeing, brother Rasul. And you know, you talked about treason and how we ought to be defining treason, you know, as a people, and how we should be holding our leaders to account, and maybe setting up a tribunal, a people's tribunal. And I do know that there are some groups who have set up the people's tribunals to investigate, you know, the whole COVID pandemic. And they're holding their own tribunals. They're bringing their evidence to these tribunals. And, you know, they're pointing out the people who they feel are responsible for trying to impose this whole pandemic lockdown on us as a people. So we most certainly, you know, could likewise be having our tribunals where we're bringing our evidence and our historical evidence as well of all of these assassinations, these coups, and these, you know, murders that have been happening, because there's no coincidence here. You know, it's just too coincidental. Someone suggested, and you endorsing that suggestion as well, of a website, you know, that a website of shame that exposes all of the leaders. I mean, we've been hearing countless lists, and I mean, it's just so surprising even to me. I thought, you know, I had quite a lot of information on our African leaders, that some of the African leaders that are in power today were responsible for the assassinations of the people's presidents who were in power before them, you know. And all of this information needs to be put together so that, you know, it's out there for the public to see what's really going on with the leadership of Africa, and why it is so we're experiencing the problems and the challenges that we're experiencing, you know, till today. And a couple of people was mentioning it in the chat as well, that the new incoming president already seems to be undoing some of the great works of President Magufuli, and that the signals are, you know, that one, that you know, she may well be looking to jump into bed with the World Health Organization and start, you know, imposing some of their conditions on their people. Apparently just after she was appointed president, the World Health Organization was tweeting to say they look forward to working with her, you know, as if there was a relationship that's already there. And I think last strong, when Prophet delivered his presentation, I think he was definitely pointing out that there was already a link possibly between the president's husband and the World Health Organization. And so really concerned that, you know, she seems to be part of their stock there. She's already, you know, lifted some of the restrictions that President Magufuli had imposed on the press, because all of us, you know, most of us ought to be aware of the power of the media and the power of the Western media in Africa to control the minds of our people. Brother Rasul was saying it starts here. Absolutely right, it starts there. But, you know, the Western world knows the power of the media and propaganda, which is why they like to control the media in most of our, you know, African nations. President Magufuli obviously recognized this, and he decided, I'm not going to allow them to brainwash my people. I'm not going to allow them to spew all of their poison and all of their venom all over my people and have their say, you know, to try and twist the minds of our people. And so he, you know, he controlled the press. If I was president, I'd be controlling the press on what's said about, you know, my country as well. And you know, Brother Rasul, you know, you're quite right. You know, they've painted the image that these corporations that are coming into Africa causing enslaving young people to be digging out the mines and bringing up the minerals, you know, and destroying the water, polluting the water with all of their chemicals, causing mass damage to the marine life, the animal kingdom and everything else. They've convinced us that these environmental destroyers are investors, you know, and they write about them as if they're coming to Africa to do us some good, you know, and if they don't get there, then they bring in their militia groups and they're actually training up our own people who look like us, arming them and sending them out to wreak havoc in villages where they know that there's mines and there's gold and there's diamonds, you know, but they paint the image that these militia groups that they have trained are somehow the enemies of us, when they are the ones who've trained them and armed them and given them rebel names and rebel descriptions. You know, it's just, they are running amok, you know, on our continent. And as you were saying, Brother Rasul, as well, you know, they come into the continent as armies and set up their army bases, but we don't see African armies setting up bases in Europe. We don't see Africans going to Europe and causing the sort of environmental destruction and exploitation that's happening, you know, on the continent of Africa. You don't see Africans coming to Europe and taking out the leaders and the MPs and key influencers, you know, in Europe. If the tables were to turn, maybe we'd begin to see some rapid changes. But as has been said in the chat as well, you know, we are a different species, we're a different set of people, but for how long, Brother Leader Bandaka, do we allow, you know, these people who don't look like us, don't like us, to continue to take out our leaders with impunity, to destroy our nations and the environment, to pollute up the environment, to let off their bombs, 10,000 acres of land in Kenya set alight a couple of strongs ago by the British Army that were there. I mean, you couldn't come to England and set 10,000 acres worth of land alight and blow up and there's nothing said. Time for change, you know, time investigations. Who's going to do those investigations? Cuba has been suggested. We've got more than able and capable investigators in Africa. Just need to organize that. If you think of Nigeria, for example, and the legal personnel that they've got there, they've been bringing cases against Europe who have been poisoning their children with their vaccines. There's cases that are happening up and down the continent. This needs to be a case that has to be heard. I mean, what say you, Brother Leader Bandaka? We've got 13 minutes before the top of the hour, 2 hours almost on already. You know, let me give 5 minutes and go back to Brother Rasul as well. If Brother Konza manages to come back in, we'll bring him in as well. We're already concluding and landing on this topic again today. The time just goes too quick. Leader Bandaka.
Tenai Moari, the answer is in the very words that you have just wisely spoken, Sister Shanice. It's time for change. Time for change. And I think the thrust of the message that we have been receiving from our evidently enlightened brother Rasul this evening is that for this change to happen, we have to change the power relationship with the historical oppressors of our people. Presently, the power relationship is entirely in their favor. And our position in that relationship is a passive one. We have to change that. So then we have to change ourselves. We have to change ourselves and how we see ourselves and how we manifest in this world that we find ourselves in and how we relate to those who have historically oppressed us. We have to change that. The most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, says power is the only argument that satisfies man. Power is the only argument that satisfies man. Except the individual, nation, the race has power that is exclusive, that individual, nation, or race will be bound by the will of others who possess these great qualifications. He says the African must get power. Power of every kind, power in education, power in science, power in politics, power in higher government. That kind of power that will stand out so that other races and nations will see, if not feel. We're a long, long way away from that. And what do we mean by power? Power is the capacity to effect your will. The capacity to effect your will. There's no question that we have that capacity, but it's latent. We have to actualize that. And the way to actualize it must be first in our conviction. Do we have the conviction? That's the first hurdle. Is our conviction deep enough? Because if we have the conviction, there's no force on earth that can stop us. I'm convinced of that. And then if we have the conviction, then the next hurdle is unity. Can we who are convicted, profoundly convicted, can we unite? Can we unite? And unity does not necessarily mean unanimity. Unanimity is not a prerequisite for unity. But it means that we have the intelligence to understand that we will have differences, but we can circumvent those differences in the interest of the broader picture. In order to pursue our collective interest, we have to be able to manage our differences and our disagreements in a constructive and productive way. And then with conviction and unity, we now need to organize. We need to organize. We need to organize on a multiplicity of levels in order to fulfill our purpose. If we can't master that, the conviction, the unity, and the organization, then we are doomed. Papa Garvey says what? Unite, organize now, or what? Perish. So if we unite and we organize, we will prosper. And that is the only way, by the way, that we're going to protect any African leader that stands up in our name to defend our sovereignty, to defend our integrity. They must know that they have a force behind them that is convicted enough, that is sufficiently convicted, united, and organized to protect them, to defend them. We have to be organized. We must be organized on all levels. To count sand, you start from where you stand, the ancestors say. So we're going to start small, right? I agree with Brother Rasul and with yourself, Sister Shanice, that we need to launch our own investigative process. In fact, that is what, as a movement, that is what we have been suggesting. We have to launch our own investigative process. But I also do believe that we must hold the Tanzanian government and the African Union to account. They are the representative bodies on the African continent, and we must hold them to account in that process. That is something we must do in the process of seeking truth and justice about the death of Papa Pombe Magufuli, and the 10 state officials that have also died in a very short space of time. Let me pause there, Sister Shanice, so Brother Rasul can come in.
Thank you so much. We are 6 minutes away from the hour. Brother Rasul, let me give you 5 of the 6 minutes, my brother.
Thank you, Sister Shanice. Thank you, Brother Leader Madaka. You are making a lot of sense, and I think we are in agreement that the way to African independence is power. And the way to power is us understanding the power relationships of the world, the power relationships within ourselves, and the ability to leverage our power to make change. I think that's where the critical part is. It's in our minds. Now, if we realize the power of our minds, that manifests itself into action, and the action changes the environment, which reinforces the power mechanisms in our minds. So we have to begin to build an upward cycle of power that empowers us, and we re-empower ourselves and continue to re-empower ourselves. Because right now, we talk a lot of victimology. You know, we always the victim, poor Africa. We are the victims. Look what the West has done to us. Let's start talking about what can we do to the West. Justice demands justice. For me, I believe that we need to begin to start thinking of a civilian army of Africa that can hold the leaders to account, a civilian army, because right now our politicians are part of the enemy equation. Our politicians are the fifth column for the corporations, and our politicians are the ones who open the door. I recall when China built the Great Wall around it. What happened is they thought they would keep the enemy out, but what they didn't cater for was the enemy bribing the gatekeepers who allowed the other armies in to plunder China and invade it. Now we are sitting with the same thing. We are sitting with neo-colonial forces who look like us, but they're not us. And we have to begin to find a mechanism to hold them to account, because if we change the guards at the gate, then obviously the wall will be strong. So for us, I believe that is why we started the anti-treason movement. We said, this is the thin edge of the wedge where we can hold the politicians to account, because the politicians told us the idea that they are in charge when we are in charge. They told us the idea that they are the state when we, the people, are the state, and they are merely employees who execute our will. But they've bamboozled us, as Malcolm X would say. They bamboozled us, and they told us that they are our masters, therefore they do as they please, and they tell us we can give away the cake and we'll give you some of the crumbs. This is the illogical logic that is within our people. This is the illogical logic of investors for jobs. If you listen to the dominant narrative by the politicians, they say, we are interested in job creation. We are not interested in job creation. We are interested in managing our own assets. We are interested in owning our own industry. We are interested in keeping our politicians to account. That's what we should be saying. We don't want jobs. Why should I have a job in a mine, taking out the gold to give someone else and enrich them to have more power over me? That's the dichotomous thinking that we have. It's disingenuous. But we continue to have this thinking because the government parrot this. The government tell us all the time. Magufuli was an exception to the rule who said no to your foreign investment because we can do for ourselves. Therefore, he became a threat to the status quo. Now, again, I'm saying we need harsher measures. We cannot continue to say, okay, they slap us on the one cheek, let's give them the other cheek. That's rubbish. That is the kind of nonsense that got us into where we are today. This is the situation because we always want to be forgiving. In China, they shoot the crooked politicians, they execute them. Why aren't we doing the same? Why can't we hold our leaders to account? And if they are guilty of treason, we should send them to the firing squad. Finished. That's it. Because you're accountable to the people and you betrayed the people. And betrayal of the people is not innocent. People die because when you betray your people, the funds go. And when the funds go, there's no schooling, there's no food, there's no hospital. And the country goes down. When the country goes down, the people starve. When the people starve, then someone dies. So corruption is not an innocent gesture of someone taking a couple of rands or dollars and putting it in their bank account. Corruption translates into debt. Corruption translates into misery. Corruption translates into more corruption. Because we only corrupt because we are weak and we think like weak people. We have to change that. We have to start talking power to power. If a corporation can wipe out a country, why can't we wipe out the corporation? If a corporation kills our president, why can't we kill the CEO? Why do we have to continue to be victims? Why do we have to be unable to exercise power in an equal fashion? You know, if Europe can come and destabilize us here, why can't we just destabilize Europe? We've got a fifth column in Europe. Our fifth column are the Africans in the diaspora. They are actually a fifth column in Europe, but we are not capitalizing on that fifth column. Instead, what we're doing, we're marginalizing them. We're saying, you are not from Africa, therefore you are not an African. We should cut out that destructive rhetoric. We should cut out the destructive rhetoric of saying who is not African, but look at who is African and how do we use their resources to benefit Africa. We need a loyalty to the motherland. We don't need a loyalty to our tribe. We don't need a loyalty to our nation. We don't need any other loyalty except loyalty to the motherland. That should guide us. That should take us and make us do what we need to do. If we do not do that, we continue to remain the victims of imperialism. And we have to ask ourselves, is imperialism strong or is it strong because we are weak? If we find that we are weak, then we need to change how we train. If we were going into a boxing match, that's why I like Muhammad Ali. What he did was he took the initiative. He never let the enemy dictate how he fought. He dictated how the enemy fought. And we haven't yet come to that point where we have a strategy in place where we begin to say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how we change the paradigm. Because if the paradigm is not changed, all we do is inconsequential. It will go through emotion, it will make us feel good, but it will have no result. It is therefore, I haven't read Brother Kwame's Rapid Africa Development Plan. I think it should be taken, it should be unpacked, it should be given meat and substance, put in a reality-based framework and start being implemented. Where it needs to be tweaked or added to, it should be added to, and it should be adopted by every African that there is. Whether in Africa, the Caribbean, or the diaspora, every African should adopt that as our vision. We have, for example, the Americans who are saying there is the new American century. We should have the new African century. We should find means and mechanisms to stop the guns, to offer olive branches to each other, to begin our negotiations, not wait for Europe to broker ceasefires amongst us. We, as the people, should broker the ceasefires because we, the people, become victims of these wars. It's women, it's children, it's, for example, it's infrastructure that gets destroyed in these conflicts. And when this infrastructure is destroyed, it's not the politician who can afford to buy a big car that gets affected. It's us, the people. It's mothers, it's sisters, it's daughters. You know, those are the ones that are being affected, and we should be angry. We need to get righteously angry, but angry in a very cold, calculated way that makes sure we get justice without overbalancing ourselves. For me, it's a time of action, it's a time of rethinking, and it's a time of making things happen. This should be our year of change, because When we look at the reset that's coming in from the World Health Organization, we should have our African reset, and reset according to our demand, not the demands of others. That's my view.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so, so much, Brother Rasul. I mean, you've gone over time, but I didn't even want to cut you. I want to thank you so, so much for your empowering words and your empowering contribution to the discussion, the panel discussion today. Absolutely agree. It's time for change. It's time for action. It's time for us to reset the preset. It's time for us as Africans to have our agenda, as African citizens around the world, you know, and we have to be the change that we want to see. If someone said, you know, in the chat, no more turning the other cheek, you know, that gets us absolutely nowhere. It just makes us, you know, we see ourselves as the victims all the time, and we are the victims because we're weak. You know, lots of questions, lots of why, and we need to be questioning, and we certainly need to be asking for whys as well. A civilian army, every single one of us needs to be part of this African army and recognize that first and foremost, we are Africans first. Boy, it sounds like, you know, some Mandotti traits have to start work on here as well. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm not going to continue much longer because we are already over time. Brother Russell, please put your phone on mute, please, my brother. I think it's coming from your end. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you. So to everybody in the panel, to everybody, to Leader Bandaka, thank you so much, Leader Bandaka. Again, you know, formidable input from yourself. Brother Rasul, again, to have you back, it's just been phenomenal listening to your out-of-the-box school of thought on how we ought to be looking on issues. You know, it's just absolutely awesome that we can come together and have these sort of roundtable discussions. Brother Kwame, in your absence, you know, I know you was trying to come back in, but unfortunately the internet connection didn't allow our brother to come back again. But, you know, we will be inviting our brother back. Thank you so much for your input, Brother Kwame, in your absence. To everybody in the chat who've been keeping, you know, the conversation going, that's been supporting our guests and our panel members. Thank you so much. And please remember for your diary, we will be back this Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m. GMT time. If you're on the continent, please remember that the UK has put their clocks forward an hour. So these shows are actually coming on an hour earlier. I noticed a lot of people are joining an hour later, but you know, the UK has put their clocks forward, and so you need to be joining us GMT time, the new time. But and please do join us on Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m. GMT time, or 7 to 9 p.m. if you're in West Africa. And it's going to be another educational debate. We've got Dr. Abu who's going to be joining us alongside Na Ashantewa. We've also got Sister Sheila Shbet from the UK. And the topic is African governments and Chinese anti-environmentalists grabbing land from women gardeners and farmers. We're going to be questioning to what extent is that actually progressive, or is it actually regressive? So we're going to be looking at that. And also, you know, very importantly, as Brother Rasul was touched on, and Brother Leader today, the importance for us to have control of our mind, our thinking. We've got our brother Franklin Jones returning for part 2 of his great African-centered lecture, which is on black skin, white mind, and he's actually showing us the science behind the psychological conditioning of our mind. If we understand how that's happening, then we can then begin to recognize it as it happens and be able to undo it as well. So I want to thank you, everybody in the chat. Please do continue to put your thoughts and opinions underneath the video in the description. Let's get a conversation going there as well. And all being well, we'll see you back next Wednesday. Brother Leader, thank you so much. Brother Rasul, thank you so much. And Brother Lee will be joining us as well, I think in a couple of strong time, for our African-centered lectures, where we have a lot more time to just listen to, you know, the profound knowledge and get some deep insights from, you know, key people in our community who have spent decades studying and just have a vast wealth of knowledge to share with our people. So Brother Leader Bandaka will be, you know, having that opportunity, and definitely going to be bringing Brother Rasul back as well, so that he can continue, you know, to enlighten us as to get an insight into what change is going to look like. And our young people are going to be that change as well. I want to big up the Kenyans as well that are demanding that the IMF do not loan Kenya any more money. They made a song about it. Swarmed, you know, the IMF and the Kenyan government to be the change. You know, what a voice for change we heard in Kenya. Kenya, of all places as well. So it's just evidence of what our young people, of how our young people can use social media to be that change. So thanks to everybody in the chat. If you haven't already given us a thumbs up, please do, so that, you know, more people can get to watch this video, because the more likes, the more it is to feature in YouTube's algorithms. Okay, so please help us to get the likes up, and we'll see you black on Wednesday. Thank you so much again, Leader Bandaka and Brother Rasul and Brother Kwame in your absence. More love, more power, more voodoo. Thank you. Bye for now.